Hi, I am Subir Mukherjee. I am going to teach you English literature. Today I will discuss Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. Let's talk about Jane Austen. Jane Austen, she belongs to Romantic period. Jane Austen born in 1775 and died in 1817. She belongs to Romantic period. Romantic periods started in 1798 and ended in 1837. Let's talk about Jane Austen. She was the daughter of a clergyman. Some of her important works are Sense and Sensibility, published 1811, Pride and Prejudice, published 1813, Mansfield Park 1814, Emma 1816, Northanger-Abbey 1816, Lady Susan 1817. This is an epistolary novel. So what is epistolary novel? This is one of the literary genre where novels are written as a series of documents. The usual form is letter. She wrote two unfinished works. Okay, number one, The Watson, published 1817, and another one, Sanditon, published 1825. Now, Lady Susan, her epistolary novel. This is important from contemporary point of view, if I say. There is a film appeared named Love and Friendship, appeared in 2016. That was a comedy film directed by Whit Stillman. And that film was inspired from Lady Susan, 1817 epistolary novel. Now, let's have a basic concept of this novel, Mansfield Park. The novel is centered on Fanny Price, the poor ward and niece of Sir Thomas and Lady Bartram. She is taken from her parents to be raised by her rich relatives and comes to Mansfield Park as a child of 9. The novel focuses on the slave trade and the roots of the British upper crust wealth in corruption and exploitation. Now, have a look on the character map. There are various characters such as Fanny Price, Sir Thomas Bartram, Lady Bartram, Edmund Bartram, Maria Bartram, Julia Bartram, Tom Bartram, Mrs. Norris, Mary Crawford, Henry Crawford, William Price, Ruth Orth, Susan Price, Yeats. The novel is very long to remember line by line. So, I am going to point out every main incidents or actions of the novel one by one from the beginning. But you have to read the novel in detail once. Otherwise, you won't understand or you won't able to connect every situations in between. So let's start. Sir Thomas Bartram and Lady Bartram lives at Mansfield Park. Next point, they, that means Bartrams, have 4 children, 2 sons, namely Tom and Edmund, and 2 daughters, namely Maria and Julia. Lady Bartram's 2 sisters are also married, one of them to Mr. Norris, a clergyman who has been provided with the living of Mansfield by Sir Thomas, and the other sister to Mr. Price, living in the town of Portsmouth. Mr. Norris have no children, while Mr. Price, during the first 11 years of their married life, had produced as many as 8 children and was about to give birth to yet another. Next point. Fanny Price, the eldest daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Price, is brought from Portsmouth to Mansfield Park to be brought up there at Sir Thomas' cost. Fanny is greatly consoled and comforted by her cousin Edmund. Edmund's manner of talking to her and consoling her is such that she feels greatly soothed and begins to feel that she has a friend at this new place. After a few years, when Fanny is about 15 years, his uncle, the Reverend Mr. Norris, dies. Mrs. Norris has now quit the parsonage and to move to a small house belonging to Sir Thomas and situated in the village nearby. The next clergyman to occupy the parsonage is Dr. Grant, who comes to live there with his wife. Dr. and Mrs. Grant have no children. Next, 2 or 3 years pass as Sir Thomas has suffered some losses on his estate in West Indies. It becomes necessary for him to go there personally for the better arrangement of his affairs. Accordingly, Sir Thomas leaves England for Antigua for about a year. After a few months, Tom comes back from Antigua, bringing an excellent account of his father's health. At about the same time, a few other persons enter the social circle of the Bartram's family. Next point, Mr. Rousseau. He has recently inherited one of the largest estates in the country and who, being greatly attracted by the beauty of Miss Maria Bartram, proposes marriage to her and is accepted by her. Next character, Henry Crawford and Mary Crawford. They are brother and sister of Mrs. Grant respectively. Now Julia begins to reciprocate Henry's attention. At the same time, Henry feels attracted towards Maria and Maria too likes him. Mary develops a liking for Edmund. Edmund has fallen in love with Mary Crawford, who, addition to her beauty, wit and elegance, possesses also a musical talent which greatly pleases Edmund. Fanny feels much troubled by the mutual attraction between Edmund and Mary, because she is herself secretly in love with Edmund and is therefore jealous of Mary. Fanny observes that Henry flirting with Maria. The fact is that both Maria and Julia have fallen in love with Henry. A young man by the name of Mr. Yates now arrives at Mansfield Park to spend a few days with Tom, who is a friend of his. At the suggestion of Mr. Yates, it is decided that a play called Lover's Vows should be staged at the Mansfield Park by the members of the Bartram family and their close relations and friends. Sir Thomas unexpectedly and suddenly returns from Antigua, and the whole idea of the play has to be given up. Maria gets married to Mr. Rousseau with the blessings of her parents and departs from Mansfield Park. Julia accompanies Maria and her husband to stay with them. Fanny is still deeply in love with Edmund, while Edmund continues to be deeply in love with Mary. Sir Thomas now decides to send Fanny to Portsmouth for a 2-month stay with her family. At Portsmouth, she feels miserable. Fanny receives an unexpected visit from Henry. Henry says that he is still in love with Fanny, but Fanny herself continues to be in love with Edmund. A few days later, Fanny receives a letter from Lady Bartram informing that Tom has fallen seriously ill and his condition is causing great anxiety. After a few days more, Fanny is informed that Tom's condition has improved, but some more disquieting information received by Fanny is that Maria, who had been married to Mr. Rousseau, has suddenly eloped with Henry, and that Julia, who was also living in London, has eloped with Mr. Yeats. 2 or 3 days after Fanny's return to Mansfield Park, Edmund tells Fanny that he has broken off all his connection with Mary. He reveals to Fanny that Mary, instead of feeling shocked by her brother's misconduct in running away with a married woman, had taken a very latent view of the matter. Edmund's giving up Mary is a source of profound happiness to Fanny. Maria had thought that Henry would soon afterwards marry her, but she now discovers that Henry has no such intention. She therefore leaves him in order to live separately. Next, Julia apologizes to her parents for having eloped with a young man of whom they do not approve, and she is forgiven by Sir Thomas. Thomas doesn't agree to Mrs. Norris's suggestion that Maria should also be pardoned. The result is that Mrs. Norris, feeling annoyed with Sir Thomas, leaves Mansfield Park and goes away to live with Maria. Now, Edmund's attention turns to Fanny. Edmund has already become a clergyman, and now, with the fullest approval and blessing of his father Sir Thomas, marries Fanny. Fanny's constancy in love has thus ultimately borne fruit. So this is the end of the novel. It will be really grateful to me if this little effort helps you in remembering the novel. Thank you guys for watching this video. Thank you. See you soon in my next lecture.